Good morning everyone, my name is Michelle. I hope you're doing well. Welcome to another video. It is Monday morning, a little bit overcast, but at least it isn't raining here in Northern England. So I want to get straight into this one this morning. I've got a couple of things to talk about. Related, kinda. First, I want to talk about the successful rescue of 4-year-old Riker Webb from Lincoln County in Montana. Now, I only became aware of this case, this little boy missing, yesterday, but he'd been missing since Friday. So he'd been gone 2 days before he was found. But little Ryker booked the statistics because we know statistically if a child is missing more than a few hours, three hours even, the chances of him being recovered alive and well are quite slim. But Ryker was resourceful, and it's an interesting story, so talk about that. Secondly, I want to bring up something that someone asked me to cover in my Facebook group regarding Summer Wells. And because there's been so much talk about Jodisue lately, and Jodisue's timeline I followed, because, well, what else have we got? I consider Jodisue a witness rather than a person of interest. The person in my Facebook group said, take out everything Jodisue said. Just, pretend Jodisue wasn't there and has said nothing. What does it leave us with? And does it leave us with anything that we can use, draw on, any more clues? I don't think it does. I think it doesn't change the timeline in any way. It makes the timeline more vague, in my opinion. But what if she's lying? What if she's lying about everything? Well, we need to talk about that, don't we? So, 4-year-old Riker Webb. Now, I don't know the exact circumstances of how he disappeared, other than he was in his yard with his dad and the family dog, and Dad went in for a moment, came back, the dog was still there, but Riker was gone. So I don't know things like, was the yard enclosed? Did Riker just, open a gate and run out? Or was this an unenclosed yard? Presumably it was enclosed, or else the dog would have run away, unless the dog was on some kind of restraint. See, these are little things that are important when we consider how a child might have gone missing. They've not been abducted, there's no foul play, there's no lies on behalf of the parents. Literally, the child was there 1 minute, parent takes their eyes off them, and they're gone. And it's all the child that did it. The child just wandered away. And at this point, my fancy pants lapel mic stopped recording. So I've got to try and remember everything I said in this video to do a voiceover. Oh, dear me. Anyway, so little kids, they can do the strangest things. They can do the things that the parents wouldn't have expected. Riker's dad, taking his eyes off for a moment, perhaps wouldn't have imagined that Riker would have run away, and that resulted in a 2-day search. I was somewhat disappointed in what some people were saying, like these druggy parents, they should be done for neglect, or this is suspicious. No evidence of that. If you've got evidence of that, then leave your source in the comments. But if it was just a rumour or your opinion based on next to nothing, then with respect, stop it. Now, I came across some Facebook Lives from one of the searchers, and I'm going to play you a few clips because they're really interesting and they tell us a little bit more about how Riker was found. So first of all, let's address his anger at the rumours, quite rightly so, about people putting things on the internet that aren't true, and calling the searchers or the sheriff's department names for not doing this or not doing that, or not allowing people to search. So listen to what he said here.
I understand that people's emotions get the best of them on a case like this. You know, a 3-year-old boy missing out in the woods, thick-ass brush. I'll let you guys know he was found well and alive, in perfect condition, in somebody's house. Obviously, the door was unlocked or something like that, and he was able to get in, and he was drinking a glass of water when he was found. But you guys got to understand something, and I'm going to get choked up a lot because, quite truthfully, the way the weather's been, we were on a recovery mission today. And thank God he was well and alive, and all of us are this way. Now, I've seen a lot of bad things in my life, and you know, we're expecting, you know, but we have our hopes up. Now, I'm not a religious guy. I don't pray, and I prayed yesterday while I was looking for him. Now, where I'm going with this is why we were turning people away. All I got to say is, I don't want no thanks. Okay, a lot of people are saying, thank you, Robert. There's none needed. The real heroes were the sheriff's department and all the other people. I was just doing what I was supposed to do. So I'm not trying to get any glory or anything like that, people, and I don't want it. So please don't say thank you to me. Say thank you to the Lincoln County Sheriff's Department, David Thompson Search and Rescue, Fire Department, everybody involved. They're the real heroes. They're the ones that need depreciation. I was just doing what I was supposed to do. The thing is the reason why we were turning down people is you guys got to realize I track. I track all the time. I know why they were destroying evidence. Yes, and that's what I'm going to get to. You guys got to realize, if you guys want to see what tracking's about, you guys go and get away from me. I will find you in no time. Okay? I'm always keeping up on my tracking, believe it or not. I'm just not a hard rock miner or placer miner. I was having so hard of a time trying to locate this kid because we had search and rescue. When they go out, they mark areas so we know where they're at, where they've been. But when you have people just show up and start walking the area that hasn't been searched yet, they're destroying evidence. They're destroying what I am looking for. Broken branches, grass pushed down, little tracks, stuff like that. We had our hopes up yesterday, and I'm going to explain this to you people. Please listen. One of the search and rescue guys was walking. We were walking in a group. We did a grid, okay, where we're 15 feet apart. You guys got to realize this was so brushy. You couldn't see somebody 6 feet away from you in high visibility. Best in that, all right? And we're walking side by side, going straight down this rock. And we got to this spot, and it was muddy, and there was fresh tire tracks and little kids' boot prints. I looked down. One of the guys didn't see it. He stepped on it. And, whoa, stop. And we started circling. We concentrated on that area looking for a kid. And come to find out, somebody else that wasn't part of this, and I know they cared. They were out there. And we respect that, but you guys have to realize we, for quite a while, concentrated on one area to come to find out somebody else that had their kid with was out looking for the kid we were looking for. That was an hour, 2 hours of wasted time of us searching an area to come to find out that the kid wasn't there. First of all, you guys know I was up there looking for the kid. Have been for the last couple of days. I am so fucking pissed off at rumors. So anybody locally watching this, please put a kibosh to the rumors. Now there's a rumor that he was in a garden shed huddling in a lawnmower bag in the cuttings trying to keep warm. That's not what happened. There was a YouTube video yesterday put out by some damn bozo locally that had no clue what was going on, saying, oh, the sheriff's department, blah, 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 and they're, you know, and they don't. This is what pisses people off, is the rumors. That he was in a tool shed in a lawnmower bag trying to stay warm in the cuttings. That's not what happened, people. He was found in a house, alive and well, drinking a glass of water when he was found. Okay?
So he's quite right that if you just let members of the public wander willy-nilly over a scene that could be a crime scene, or definitely could have evidence of the child, you know, a tracker would be able to follow signs that someone had been there in the brush, and this was quite heavy brush in this area of Montana. And he's an experienced tracker. He was there with his dog, and he said that the scene was destroyed by people just turning up, and they found some footprints, some child's footprints, and they spent an hour or 2 hours looking for Ryker, thinking these were Rykers, and it turns out they weren't. They were a searcher's kid who just turned up, like it's a random person, just turned up with a kid. It's shades of Dennis Martin from 1969 in the Great Smoky Mountains, that the scene, possible signs from Dennis were destroyed by people walking all over it. And that can be the difference between a child being found or a child not. In Dennis's case, he was not, and he's still missing 53 years later. But for little Ryker, he was very, very lucky. From what it sounds like, is Ryker found shelter. That he found a house, maybe a cabin, like an unoccupied cabin, unlocked, and just walked in. And when the searchers found him, he was helping himself to a glass of water. And this was only 1/4 of a mile away from his home. So it shows that if a child just gets lost, you know, very close to home, but can be resourceful and can find their way into shelter. This is assuming, I mean, I don't have any details from Lincoln County Sheriff's Office. Presumably, Ryker will be interviewed by specialist officers to find out if there was anyone else involved, to find out if he was taken there, if he was held there, if he was abducted and sadly abused there. All of that will be discovered. They'll try to find that out from Ryker in the next few days. But what we know from the Sheriff's Office right now is that he was alive and in good health. So is it indeed the case that he found his way there on his own and did a very clever thing in just staying there in the warm? Or was there something more nefarious to it? Maybe we'll find that out. But at the time of recording this, it's currently 9:16 a.m. as I'm doing this annoying voiceover. There's no other news other than this. There may be later today. But someone in my Facebook group said, you know, the fact that Ryker was found after 2 days proves that Summer Wells didn't just wander away. And I don't think that's the case, because if it is indeed the case that Ryker found shelter on his own and he'd been there all that time, then it's a very different circumstance to that of Summer Wells, because she didn't find shelter. She didn't just wander a little way away from her hill and find shelter. Dave Rader said to Dutyron the other night that he doesn't believe that Summer is on the mountain because she would have been found. Just the intensity of the search in those first couple of weeks. But then later, law enforcement came back in November, they came back in February. Equisearch did another round there. There was other teams who were out there. You know, they threw everything at finding Summer Wells. Not just ground searches and dogs, multiple teams of dogs, but sonar in water, heat-seeking technology from drones, from helicopters, just consistently going over and over that area. One criticism Dave Rader had was that law enforcement seemed to have focused on just one kind of quite narrow area, quite small area. He said that they should have spanned out further, as Equisearch did. Maybe law enforcement were following the only clue they had in that children's footprints were found that a dog alerted on in that area. Or maybe they've got other evidence that we don't know about, that even Equisearch don't know about, and that they have very good reason for searching that particular area, not just on one occasion, but multiple times. I've discussed that recently in the last few days in relation to Jodisue, the Bernal family. You know, what involvement do they have, if any? What can we speculate about them? What can we theorise about them, given that they own so much property in that area and just beyond Beech Creek? But let's turn to Jodisue, because until recently I've considered Jodisue a witness and looked at her timeline as, you know, my guiding light, really. But only recently have I considered her a person of interest, and in doing so, I've got to reconsider the entire timeline. Now, according to what Candice said to the channel Unmasked, the milk juice photo and separate video, there are two entities, were taken at 3:09, and I've deduced, as of a few other people, that the place it was taken was just after, so going from Kingsport to 110 Ben Hill Road, on Lone Star Road, just after the intersection with Murrell Road. That's 3:09. So if that indeed is 3:09, and she's not lying about that, then they'd have been home by 3:20. But then there's 3 hours between 3:20 and 6:26. Around that time, when the 911 call came in. At that point, dispatch said that she'd only been missing 10 minutes, which means that either Candice or Don told 911 that she'd only been missing 10 minutes, so maybe it was 15 minutes, 20 minutes, but puts it at 6 or even gone 6. So what happened in that other 2.5 hours? If we disregard everything Jodisue says, just take Jodisue's timeline completely out of the equation, it means that there was no flash of the red vehicle, that was not the Subaru, not the kind of shiny red of the Subaru, but a darker, kind of more matte, I guess, red, going up the driveway that her and her son allegedly saw. Delete that didn't happen. The scream between 4:30 and 4:42 that Jodisue and her 2 kids heard, that didn't happen either. What else didn't happen? Well, recently Jodisue was added to this timeline and said that she heard about 5:30-ish the sound of possibly the Wells Suburban or possibly Grandma's truck going up the driveway. That didn't happen either. And then at 6:09 she heard them shouting for Summer as she was descending down her driveway, going to meet Andy down at the bottom as he was on his way home from work. She was going to go and wait for him at the bottom on Ben Hill Road, but she heard them shouting for Summer. She dropped her purse on the road and she got into the creek. Now, we don't know exactly where she got into the creek. Oh, she saw Candice first. She saw Candice on the driveway, coming down the drive. She spoke to Candice. Candice has verified this, which I'll come back to. And then she got in the creek and started to search for Summer. So we know from Candice, if you can believe Candice, but we have got some corroboration that Jodisue was there. Now, what we don't have is from Candice is the time Jodisue was there, because she said on a previous occasion that she saw Jodisue between 4:30 and 5. Well, if that's the case, if she was out searching for Summer between 4:30 and 5, why did the 911 call only come in at 6:26? Did she, as people suspect, leave the hill twice, and she's got confused as to when she actually saw Jodisue, that she thought she saw it the first time, but actually it was the second time? That's a possibility. So if she left the hill twice, she went out between 4:30 and 5, had a look round for Summer, couldn't find her, went back home, sent the boys out. I'm just imagining a possible scenario. And then she came back out shortly after 6, but she lied to 911 and to Don that she'd been missing far longer. She said she'd only been missing a couple of minutes. You know, the story of the planting flowers and wanting to go over to see her brother. She had a piece of candy from Grandma. Candice, like the helicopter mother that she is, not walked her over to the house, saw her walk in, told the boys to watch Summer. I'll be back, she said. The boys say she went down to the basement to play with her toys, and she's never been seen since. So she was either abducted, this is a parent's story, she was abducted from the basement, or she went out on her swing where she would never leave that area. Someone came up into the yard and abducted her. Well, yeah, it's possible, but is it probable? You know, a stranger walking up that hill into the yard just on the off chance? Nah, didn't happen. I'm gonna say this clearly. It didn't happen, in my opinion. But someone known to Summer, who came up into the yard, who was around the woods, who saw Summer, was looking, that's more probable. I think what is more probable is Summer just wandered off a little way. We know that the boys told Sheriff Ronnie Lawson, which was communicated to the public by Bianca Murray from WJHL on the 16th of June, that the boys last saw her going out the back door, which is the basement door. But we don't know when. What we don't know is the timeline. And TBI aren't talking about the timeline. They don't want to discuss the timeline whatsoever, which is fine, because they've got to maintain the integrity of the investigation. If we're deleting Jodisue from all of this and we're disregarding the truck going up the driveway, we're disregarding the other truck going up the driveway that Jodisue heard at 5:30, we're disregarding the scream between 4:30 and 4:42, what we can't disregard is the fact that Candice saw Jodisue, unless they're both lying, which is possible. But I believe Candice that she did see Jodisue. What we don't know is what time she saw Jodisue. But I've believed Jodisue's 609 story because it does fit with the dispatch calls saying that she'd only been missing 10 minutes or thereabouts when the 911 call came in. Because if we're deleting Jodisue completely from this, we're only putting Jodisue back into that little detail because Candice said she saw her. Now, Don also said he saw a neighbour down by the creek when he arrived. So he arrived around 7ish. The cops started to arrive just gone 7. And Don says he beat them all there. And then he said, well, maybe there was a cop car or two there already. But around, let's say around 7 or just after. And this has been corroborated. Now, we haven't seen the footage, so this is just an alleged corroboration that somebody who cycles up and down Beach Creek on his bike had a GoPro on his handlebars, and he got a glimpse of the boys around 7 p.m. near that creek area. So it's down what Don calls the bottom property. He turned that footage over to law enforcement, so we haven't seen it, but allegedly there is some footage of the boys being there. Now, Don said he went down to the bottom property because he knew they were searching the hill. And by the time he got there and he drove past the shed and he got out and he knew she'd gone. Perhaps because, she plays down there. Who knows? But if we believe Don here, he said he saw the boys and a neighbour. Now, what he doesn't say is which neighbour. Now, we can conclude that could be Jodisue and another neighbour. She says that she searched the creek. Now, we don't know where she got in the creek because Beach Creek goes all round. It's like a little moat, if you will. It goes round the majority of the Wells Hill. So it goes up Ben Hill Road, it meets Beach Creek Road, and then it goes back down and round. And then you've got Limestone Branch, which is another creek, which meets Beach Creek. On almost all sides, there's only a small portion that the hill isn't kind of surrounded by this creek. It's only a very shallow creek, unless there's been flooding. But we don't know at what point Jodisue got in the creek and then walked round and saw the boys. Now, there has been some talk in the last day or so that Jodisue must be lying, and this kind of locks Summer onto the hill, because how could she have possibly escaped otherwise? I don't believe that's the case, because that's an assumption that Jodisue saw the boys on the area of the creek on Ben Hill Road. But that's not my understanding. My understanding is she walked through the creek and the boys were down so much later, because Candice went out and went this way and that way and the other way, according to her. In the time that Candice was out, Jodisue was searching, and then she saw the boys. So there's that time span between her seeing Candice and Don arriving. So you've got 45 minutes there, possibly. Or at least half an hour. So that's my understanding. So that doesn't negate what Jodisue is saying, but for the purposes of this video, we're deleting everything unless it can be corroborated. Candice seeing her, we'll keep that in. But if we're deleting everything else, then we don't know if Don saw Jodisue or whether he saw another neighbour. We know Jodisue says another neighbour was there helping her, which was someone called Don, not Don Sherfy. Let's be clear, not Don Sherfy Sr., but Blue Roof Don. It's just called Blue Roof Don. So we don't know from Don whether Jodisue was there at all, and of course we don't know anything of what the boys have said. So let's delete Jodisue from searching the creek. So what are we left with? Well, we're left with a timeline that spans 3 hours with nothing else between, let's say, 3:20, if the 3:09 milk jugs photo and video are to be believed, and 6:26 when the 911 call came in. We've got almost 3 hours there. We don't know anything else. We don't even know when Candice saw Jodisue, because Candice can't remember. The reason why someone wanted me to cover this and take Jodisue out of the timeline is that it might throw up some more clues. I don't think it does. I think it makes the timeline just as vague as it was ever. And for me, it means there's kind of no time points to work from at all. Summer could have gone missing any time within those 3 hours. The fact that dispatch said the parents had said she'd only been missing 10 minutes could have been a lie. She could have been missing 2 hours, 2.5 hours. We just don't know. So it's just as vague, even more vague, if we just assume that either Jodisue wasn't there, just take her out of the picture completely, or if she was there, she's lying. We know she was there, but, that she's lying about everything. So what does it leave us with? Well, next to nothing. So we're still very much in the dark about what happened to Summer Wells. But for some little kids, miracles do happen. Look at little Cleo Smith, who was missing, 18 days, I think? The strangest of circumstances. And social media were horrible to those parents when she really had been taken from her tent by some weird guy. Let's again just remind ourselves not to blame anyone until we know the facts. And let's listen. Let's not just assume. And let's not just blame the parents automatically. Sometimes it is the parents and they're lying about the timeline, but let's not assume that they are. And with Summer's case, we just don't know. We've got to keep an open mind still and look at possibilities and theories and ideas, but ultimately we have so few facts, we just don't know. And taking Jodisue out of the timeline just brings that home to me about just how little we actually know. But for little Ryker, it's all worked out. It's all worked out well. But as I said at the beginning of this video, I was a bit disappointed that people were blaming the parents without knowing anything at all. So I'm going to call it quits for today. I'm going to say goodbye. So it's goodbye from Miss Cassie Springer and Miss Tillington. Bye, guys.